Hello. So, how's life in Pinocchio's fairground at the moment? Looks like we need to get injected now with experimental biological agents in order to, I suppose, re-participate. I'd rather kind of use that word rather than go back to normal. Re-participate into some kind of model of society that looked a bit like what it did 14 months ago. So 14 months ago, we were asked to be patient for a couple of weeks just to flatten a curve of cases of a virus which in reality didn't actually take out that many people. And you know, whichever way you look at life on earth and nature and the way the Divine Mother works and how creation works, the moment we separate our physicality and our intrinsic connection to that sacred hoop, that wheel, that mechanistic model of phenomena happening in this constructed time and space reality that we exist within. The moment we attempt to separate ourselves from that and attempt to control something that ultimately can't be controlled, because you can't control the Divine Mother, you can't control creation, and you can't control how creation works. You can manipulate it, you can fuck about with it, you can GMO it, you can change DNA, you can do all sorts of crazy things that the egoic mind and this kind of illusion of scientific omnipotence tends to project onto our very short, sometimes interesting, sometimes not so interesting lives, that we don't understand the consequences further down the karmic process of what we're doing now. So it might all seem like a good idea, it's like the old saying, the path to hell is paved with really good intentions. But if you don't know where your intentions are coming from, if you don't know the root of your intentions, if you don't know yourself well enough to be able to discern whether your intentions are coming from an egoic skandha, a samskara, a hidden shadow element of your psyche, disguised as altruism, disguised as selflessness, disguised as being good, then you're missing the point. Because most of our intentions, if we haven't done any work on ourselves and our psyche, come from our subconscious mind. And our subconscious mind and our infraconscious minds are pretty well hidden to most people. So, as much as you might like to think that by acting in a communal way, by doing the right thing, whatever that might be, sometimes we're told, do the right thing. Who are you to tell me what is right? Yeah? We can only discern what is right through our own experience, through our own knowledge, through our own ability to ultimately tap into our willpower and the essence of our innate wisdom, as well as the learned wisdom or intelligence that we get kind of programmed with over our lives. And to kind of balance the two is really important, because if someone in a position of authority says, this is the right thing to do, you have to do it, and if you don't, there will be consequences, then that smacks of patriarchal, unenlightened, carrot and stick, tyrannical totalitarianism. And we've all, at some level, suffered at the hands of people trying to impose their will over us. And it's not a nice feeling, is it? You know, the Jews suffered for it terribly in the Second World War when they were told to wear a yellow badge to differentiate themselves from the rest of the German population and the rest of, if Hitler had had his way completely, you know, the world population. They were herded into essentially camps or ghettos to start with, for their own safety, for their highest good. And then they were told to get onto cattle trucks and be taken to these, essentially what were abattoirs. Abattoirs and medical experimentation facilities where they were injected with all sorts of strange chemicals, vaccines, where they were herded into gas chambers and murdered, where they were made to slave for crumbs. And it all started with one person with a bit of character, a bit of chutzpah, a bit of cheek, and a bit of oratory skill to be able to convince an entire population to divide itself. To divide itself, or to ignore that there is that there were a minority of people being treated in an abhorrent and karmically unforgivable way. And most people who turned their heads away were living in a comfort zone, and it was easier to just go with the flow or even pretend to agree with it, right, than actually stand up, say something about it, and stand in their integrity. And the only thing driving that kind of decision process is fear. Fear of loss, fear of being labeled the same way as the minority, fear of losing your life, losing your physical life. Most people don't think like me and many others like me. You know, a lot of people think that this physical life is the most important thing, and that, you know, once it's over, and you've got to cling on to it for as long as possible and get as much pleasure from it as possible, and essentially it's the be all and end all. But if you take that highly materialistic polarity to life as a whole, then you're always going to get stuck and you're always going to get manipulated. Because ultimately, when there are authority structures and hierarchies that get created through civilizations and societies, they tend to be the people that have a slightly higher level of organizational ability and intelligence and can pretty much conjure up and organize a system of threats to create a fear-based level of psychological brainwashing, which then allows them to provide the solution to the threat as well. So essentially you're kind of trapped in this, oh, if I don't do this, I'm going to get, I don't know, fined, or if I don't do this, I'm going to get beaten up, or if I don't do this, I'm going to lose my home, if I don't follow this rule, if I don't, you know, it's this kind of, you're herded, boxed into a corner. And if you've ever done boxing or martial arts, you know, the key message from any of that is don't go into any fight with anger or fear, because that way you're going to lose even if you don't lose. Okay, even if you don't lose physically, you've lost, the soul has lost, because it's gone into it through a state of consciousness which actually creates a vulnerability within the individual, within that state of consciousness. So if you're boxed into a corner, yeah, by all means fight. But sometimes you've got to if you're concerned about your soul growth, you have to be able to say no to the life that you think you need. The life that you think you need. Otherwise, you're forever going to be stuck in a loop of giving your power away. And it's interesting because most of the kings and queens of old and of new, most of the government and unelected bureaucratic houses of talking heads and self-proclaimed experts that exist on this planet right now, the only reason they exist, the only reason they can pay themselves, the only reason they can live a life of ultimately dictatorship and control is because we allow it to happen. We allow these people to govern us. You know, government is through consent. Yeah. No one can govern you unless you choose not to be governed, right? If you're giving your decision-making power to a government, be damn sure that the people working in that government, right, are like Jesus Christ or like the Buddha, because otherwise they're going to screw you, and they're screwing you now. They're screwing all of us, big style. And there's probably going to be a majority of people that would disagree with what I'm saying, and I don't care really, because I'm going to say it anyway. So, you know, I'm trying to marry up, you know, having to exist within this matrix of insanity and hysteria that seems to have descended upon us, you know, the last 14 months, and then also looking at it from a spiritual and metaphysical perspective to see how I personally and maybe others can navigate their way through it in order to help the soul grow rather than ultimately help the survival of the ego. Okay? And in order to grow the soul, it's as simple as, so to introduce more light into you, to introduce the light of spirit, the light of Christ, if you want to call it that, into your soul, it's as simple as, in many ways, succeeding to oppose what your natural reaction or natural animalistic tendency would be in any situation in life. It's to break that pattern. It's to break that cyclical, ever-repeating pattern of karma that has kept us trapped in this seasonal, cyclical wheel of existence for so long. And when you can break that ring, then you're getting somewhere. And it could be as simple as, if you're about to make a decision out of fear, and that decision is to succumb and acquiesce to a control mechanism to give you the illusion of safety, to break that pattern, maybe you have to face that fear. Maybe you actually have to live through that fear. Yeah? And not accept the cure. Not accept what's being offered to you to make you feel better. Because spiritual growth isn't about feeling better. Spiritual growth isn't about feeling all comfortable and lovely and high up there in this nirvanic state of bliss. Spiritual growth means building your soul, building your character, building the holy virtues that we are lacking so much in this age of humanity. And we're all lacking in them, me most included, which is why we've got to do the work. It's why I've got to continue doing my work. It's why I encourage my children to do their work. It's why I encourage anyone who comes to see me for healings to do their work. And not many people like to do work. They just want to take a pill or an injection to make it easier. But it's not easy. It's not easy. Many are called, few are chosen, right? We've all got an opportunity, we've all got an ability to transcend this humanoid, animal, intelligent animal pattern of cyclical existence and actually become truly human. Fulfill our potential, fulfill our divine potential. But you're not going to fulfill your divine potential if every time you get angry about something, you react to that anger and create more of that same sort of energy. You're not going to fulfill your divine potential if you're going to acquiesce to a vaccine passport or a vaccine to go and drink warm beer in Benidorm. You're not going to fulfill your divine potential if you're constantly lusting after pleasures to give you that temporary satisfaction and fulfillment before descending back into an innate state of suffering. You're not going to fulfill your divine potential if you're feeling apathetic, unmotivated, guilty or shameful because you've agreed to what certain elements within your life have essentially created for you in terms of your own sense of self-respect. Okay? And when I mean self-respect, I don't mean egoic self-respect. I mean the respect of the spirit that lives within you that has the potential to lift you and take you through any challenges that life may be throwing at you. So you're not going to fulfill your divine potential if you value a badge or a medal, right, more than doing the right thing. Yeah? Plenty of medals and badges were given out during various wars to soldiers that exhibited vast acts of courage and bravery to protect their own, to protect their fellow brothers and sisters who were being cut down by machine guns and bombs and mortars and all sorts of insane methods of murder. So you can be recognized, all right, but you're not going to fulfill your divine potential if that hits that egoic samskara of pride. Okay? So if you're proud of yourself from an egoic perspective, it means you're feeding an idol. You're feeding this false sense of you, and pride worships itself. Okay, instead of not worshiping, but recognizing and understanding and connecting with the spirit that creates all of it. So we forget that we are connected intrinsically to these rays of wisdom and creation, this light that permeates everything, this consciousness that permeates everything. And by going against that, we ultimately go against ourselves and we end up destroying ourselves. So you can probably guess from this little video that I'm feeling quite strongly about certain things that are happening not only in the UK and Wales, but also in all around the world, really. There's an element of, I suppose, a lot of these things bring up certain traumas from the past for a lot of people that potentially would have had an abusive upbringing, an abusive childhood, an abusive relationship, where an individual or a group of individuals used fear, coercion, carrot and stick punishment, abusive language to essentially control you or to manipulate you in a way where you ended up totally remaining silent and going in and withdrawing and losing your soul in the process. So when things like this come up again, these traumas resurface for us, but it's the triggers that allow the traumas to resurface need to be thanked. So we need to look at why potentially we might be reacting when we could be actually looking at healing what's coming up for us in these times. Okay, and not using the triggers and the reaction to the traumas as a way of retaliating, but looking at them as a way to actually reclaim our power from them. Okay? Because you can say no. You can stand in your power. You can express yourself without being silenced. You can take your masks off and speak and smile to each other. You can refuse a vaccine if you want to, even though it might mean It might mean, for whatever reason, having to simplify your life and making your universe a little bit smaller. Okay? What's more important? Your integrity or the amount of pleasure you can consume in your life? Okay? Are you really going to miss potentially going to a football match? Are you going to miss going to a cinema to plug into a screen? Are you going to miss potentially, going to a restaurant and eating out? Yeah? If you are going to miss those things, then okay, I mean, these are nice things to do. But what's more important? What's more important? Being able to do these things in your life, but then potentially creating a problem for yourself further down the road, right? Karmically. Or is it better to stand in your integrity? Who knows? Some people would call me stubborn. Yeah. But I prefer to look at it as I'm willing to be open-minded, but don't treat me like a fool. Don't treat me like a child. Yeah. Don't. You need to convince and persuade, not necessarily persuade, but educate me, or educate people who are hesitant to kind of fall into these what are essentially very, very, very rapidly induced changes within the society. To fall in line to that without question is madness. It's utter madness. And, if you want to get me on board, you got to convince me. You got to debate. You got to go up against, maybe some alternative viewpoints and science and alternative thinking that balances the one-sidedness of everything that seems to be coming at the majority of people at the moment. If you're not willing to do that, then there's a fear there in you, isn't there? There's a fear that maybe the Emperor hasn't really got any clothes on, right? Maybe Dorothy will pull back the curtain, or Toto will pull back the curtain, and you'll just see this little old man pulling levers and creating illusions. Yeah, maybe Goldilocks, right, will find out that she's just woken up in a house full of bears. So our Pinocchio might start growing a muzzle and some ears. So let's please maintain an element of self-respect and alertness in everything that's going on. And trust is a interesting issue at the moment. There are schools of thought, spiritual schools, that say just trust everything, man. Trust is all for your highest good. Yeah, if you trust everything but don't learn from the experiences that you get through potentially trusting everything, then it's not for your highest good. You can trust up to a point, but then when that trust is broken, or when that trust is to some extent manipulated, then that's when boundaries need to be put in place. That's when you've got to evolve, right? That not everyone is actually thinking of your highest good. Not everyone cares about you. And there are spiritual powers that don't care about you and don't really, really like you that much. Yeah? They just want to feed off your trauma and your pain. Yeah? They're jealous of you. So it's not all love and light out there at the moment, guys. And like the old saying, Satan masquerades as an angel of light. And the saviors that you may have, placed your faith and belief and hope in, be they physical or be they ethereal, might not be saviors after all. Okay? You are your own power. You have your own spark of divinity within you, and that's what you have to grow. Okay? That's what you have to grow. You have to grow that within you. Grow that embryonic soul into a fully fledged angel, real one, not a pretend one. Not pretend angels out there. So yeah, sitting in my car. I've just taken my mum to her dental hygienist appointment, and I'm just chilling out, and the sun's out. I might go for a little walk, but walking around a car park's not that exciting, so I'll probably wait till I get home. So there we are. Take these words, do with them what you will. whether you agree or not, fair enough. But just be alert, guys. Be alert. Be alert and question everything. Let's not repeat the patterns of the past again, but in different ways. Let's get really into this and let's learn the lessons finally and get out of this karmic frickin' loop that we've been in for fucking centuries. It's getting boring now. Really boring. All right. See you next time.